La población mundial está creciendo. Existe una creciente demanda por alimentos de alta calidad, sabrosos, saludables y cuidando el bienestar animal. Esto brinda la oportunidad a algunos países para abastecer al mercado mundial. Argentina es uno de ellos, ya que tiene un clima favorable y abundantes recursos naturales. La agricultura representa un sector importante y es un pilar indispensable para el progreso social y la prosperidad económica. Sus exportaciones agrícolas generan el 60% de los ingresos extranjeros del país. La industria porcina argentina ha crecido rápidamente. Desde 2010, tanto el consumo como la producción de carne porcina han aumentado más del 150%, una de las cifras más altas en todo el mundo. Están dadas las circunstancias para que la Argentina optimice la cadena porcina y aproveche las oportunidades del mercado mundial. Los Países Bajos pueden colaborar a lograrlo. Para satisfacer los mercados de alta exigencia, la cadena porcina debe garantizar productos sostenibles y seguros, protegiendo el bienestar animal. Los Países Bajos son reconocidos por sus conocimientos avanzados y por su experiencia en toda la cadena de valor en la industria porcina. Desde la genética, la nutrición, el alojamiento, los sistemas de control, la gestión agrícola, el tratamiento de efluentes, hasta el procesamiento de la carne y la cadena de frío. Todo ello adaptable a las circunstancias locales. Mediante el intercambio de conocimientos, la capacitación y la tecnología, ofrecemos a la industria porcina herramientas para hacer crecer su negocio y mejorar su calidad de vida. Trabajando en conjunto entre los gobiernos, las empresas y las instituciones educativas, podemos inspirarnos mutuamente y al mundo entero a desarrollar una cadena porcina integrada, eficiente y sostenible. Resolviendo juntos los desafíos globales.
Hola y bienvenidos a este webinar. Welcome to this special webinar devoted to the theme of optimizing reproduction management. This webinar is brought to you by Gita Porcino, that's short for Grupo de Intercambio Tecnológico Argentino Holandés. In short, that is a cluster of 11 Dutch companies, all working in the swine industry, trying to work together with stakeholders in Argentina to optimize the local swine supply chain in Argentina. This is the second of a series of 6 webinars devoted to practical pig problems and pig solutions. And each of these webinars will have a special theme, and that could be from breeding all the way up to slaughtering. And this webinar, as said, is devoted to optimizing reproduction management. We are broadcasting from a studio in The Hague in the Netherlands. My name is Vincent Terbeek. I'm editor for Pig Progress. That is an international swine title trying to cover developments all around the world, and we're happily supporting this initiative. I shall be your host for the next hour. I won't be able to film this all by myself. I'm joined by a series of a group of expert speakers. With me at the table is Katalin Nikolaucic from Topics Norsvin. I've got Harjan Westerman of NADAP with me, and Peter de Linde of Leo. And joining me at a distance, and those of you who have watched the previous webinar will already recognize him as Francisco Tascon of AgroVision. And we'll start with you in a minute. Before that, this webinar is aimed at the Argentinian market, but most of the speakers are from an international background, so that's why the talking is being done in English, but it is all subtitled in Spanish, and as you can see, all the presentations will also be in Spanish. Let us turn to the first speaker. Joining us live from Colombia, I said Francisco Tascon. He's sales manager for AgroVision in Latin America. He's a veterinarian by training, having studied at the Universidad de Caldas in Colombia and later obtained his MBA at the Universidad ICESI, also in Colombia. And his presentation is called Uso de datos para mejorar los resultados en el acto reproductivo. Welcome, Francisco, and take it away.
Thank you, Vincent. I'm glad to be here in the webinar again. Well, we're going to talk how to use data to improve the results in the breeding herd. And next, please. First, I want to talk about Agrobation. Is a software company, global company specialized in agricultural software. And our platform for pigs is PigVision. With PigVision, you can track all the data in the pig production. You can share your results with the genetics and consultants and financial data. And you can connect feed controllers, scales, or environmental controls. Next, please. The first thing, we need to be clear what is our goal in the breeding herd, because normally we used to measure piglets per sow per year, but the goal of the breeding herd is just one, to fill the finishing barn with the right piglet at the lowest cost possible. And for improving our results, we need to make some changes to what we are doing today. We need to go from analyzing the periods to focus on the service groups. And we need to change from evaluating average to be capable to see variations in the breeding herd. Next, please. And we can see it when we are trying to improve the farrowing rate, for example. The farrowing rate as an indicator, we cannot improve itself. We need to work on the events involved in the mating or during the service. And day by day, we have more and more items that we need to track to do a better job. For example, the semen quality or the age of the semen, the service score. We need to know if the sow was, or the service was slowly, or the sow was not quiet, or we had the backflow or was good, the heat intensity, or the stand reflex. And even the sow condition is very important, and we are going to talk more. Other speakers who are will be talking about this subject. Normally, we just track the data of the employee, the board, and the service date, but not much. And what we don't measure, we cannot improve. It's a maximum. Next, please. So when I have that data, then I can compare with my born alive, and I can compare with the farrowing rate, and I can see where my problems are, and then I can see what actions I need to do in my breeding herd. Next, please. Then I need to track what happened with my gestation, when I am losing my gestations, and what is the cause of that losses, to have the possibility to make the right decisions at the right time and don't lose so much gestation as possible. Next, please. Then it's very important to keep the service group parity distribution. This is a very important thing that normally is not controlled in the farms in Latin America. Because if I have a weekly basis system, I have 20 service group in the farm, and every service group is like to have a farm inside the farm, and I need to manage that service group and my yield replacement control to maintain the parity distribution and not having more old sows or a lot of yields in the herd, because that became in problems. Next, please. Then I need to compare the results and how every service group is performing and how every parity of the sows is performing inside the service group to see if I have seasonal problems or I have some problems with a service group or not. Next, please. And then how the sows of every parity is performing compared with their own service group or during a period. In this case, for example, the guilds, how the guilds are performing in every service group. That is very important to analyze if I am doing well my guilds preparation, or I have problems in my second parity or in my third parity, and then I can see if I have problems with my feed or my consumption or many things that I can control in the farm. Next, please. The other part that is very important is how to manage the gilt replacement, because the gilt must push the cooling sows and not the cooling sows pull the gilts, because if I don't do it in this way, I always will have problems with the parity distribution in every service group. Next, please. Let's see an example. This is a service group with 181 sows. Next, please. When I can filter how many sows I have over the fifth parity, I see that I have 44. And next, please. When I filter how many sows I have over the below 12.5 born alive per liter, I see that I have 26. So I need 70 yields in this service group. And then when I have the number, then when I can anticipate with this kind of data, I can prepare my yields in the right way. And then if I don't have enough yields, then I can see which one I can give another opportunity, or which sow it's deserve another opportunity or not. Next, please. So those both are very important items to improve my results in my service groups. When I improve my results in my service group, then I can improve the complete results of the farm. The other part is how to manage when I have a multi-site production, because when I have multi-site production, I need to control in real time, and I need my information system let me know what is happening in real time, what is happening with every farm. Next, please. So I need a information system where I can control every farm and to compare 2 or 3 or 4 farms, whatever I have, to see where I'm having problems and where I need to work to improve the results of every area or every farm. Next, please. Then I can consolidate the data and see by group of farms or every farm independent what I need to improve or where my problems are. In that way, when I have an information system, I can anticipate to the problems I have, and not just like autopsy and they inform about what happened, but the dead body is there. So I need a real good information system more than just databases that let me know what happened when I do nothing. I have nothing to do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Francisco. Excellent presentation again. And judging from your presentation, apart from a really good system, I think you also need decent quality animals in your barn. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, I suppose.
Of course. You need the right data to see where the problems are. But if you don't have good animals and good people in the barn, the results are not getting from the data just.
Francisco, thank you very much. And about good quality animals, we're going to talk about in just a minute. Francisco, we'll get back to you in the roundtable discussion later on. Now I turn to my left here for the viewers on the right. Katalin Nikolauchuk is sitting with me. He's nutritionist at breeding company Topics Norsvin, and he's been with the company since 2014, and prior to that he did a master in sustainable animal nutrition at Wageningen University. He will speak about optimizing gilt rearing and in order to get better reproductive performance.
Yep. Thank
Katalin,
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you for having me. I would like first to start by mentioning that to prepare this short speech, I tried to gather the best data I could get, and in case there is something that it's not in line with what you would expect, please contact us. We are always willing to discuss any of the subjects that you would like to challenge us or to discuss with us. Coming back to our subject today, what's really important to focus on when we talk about gilt reproduction performance. First, I would like to have a look on the whole picture, so not focusing only on the gilts, but focusing on the whole picture from the young gilt to the old sows. I think in general, most of the time we are focusing on what's happening with the sows, how much they lose during lactation time, or when we talk about the gilt, we focus on rearing, what's happening during rearing time, but not so often we are focusing what's happening before we start with the rearing period. So what's happening with the young female? Should we select the gilt with a certain birth weight, or what's happening with the mother of the future gilt? So I'll try to discuss a bit about all these factors in my next slides. But first, I would like to make it clear for all of us, and I think this is not happening often, but I would like to bring some attention to this. We should always be sure that we are using the right gilts for insemination. I know that in some markets at the moment, the financial situation is not the best. So then we might take a short decision for a short moment of time, which doesn't bring a good economical outcome on the long period of time. So then I want to be sure that we are on the same page, and I'm sure that our producers in Argentina are doing a good job selecting the gilts which are proper produced to bring a good number of piglets. Besides the number of gilt or the right type of gilt, what I think it's really important is to have good data collection. In our company, we are doing extensive data collection, having even CT scans in Norway and in Canada, and we are collecting all this data which can be used later on to double our genetic progress. And this is quite relatable, I think, with what's happening in the farm, maybe not at the same level. So if we can collect a lot of data and use it to improve our genetic program, I think our customers or farmers, they can do the same. They can collect the data and then they can analyze it and have a look what's happening on reproductive performance, what's happening in finisher efficiency, and not focusing only on finishing, but they can also focus on what's happening with the sows, what's happening in the nurseries, and so on. And later on, if they collect data related to the slaughter in the slaughterhouse, related to back fat measurements, lean meat percentage, DRI+, all the data can be combined, and in the end it can bring a better insight, but also can help to get better profit in the end. Coming back to our story related to the gilts, what's happening with them and where we should focus on, I think there are 6 things which we should focus on. Those are, starting with the first one, the origin of the gilt. And when I'm talking about the origin of the gilts, I do not mean that they should have the right genes, but where they are coming from, which is their mother. So if the sow is losing a lot of weight during lactation time, we can see that then there is a problem. And we have to select always a good birth weight gilt. So we should have a gilt which have a good birth weight, but also it is important to focus that the litter mates are the same size. So the litter should be uniform, and besides that, the colostrum intake during the first days is quite important, and this has also an effect on later reproductive performance. On the second factor, we have to focus on the development of these gilts. We cannot focus only on birth weight or later on only in rearing time. We have to see it as a whole picture. So looking on the gilts, how they develop over time. By the time of insemination, we would like to see them growing enough, so they should have at least 650 grams of live daily gain from the time of birth until insemination. The next step, during rearing time, which most of the customers and clients are looking at, we should include bore exposure. This is something that it's done in many systems, but there are quite some which are not doing this as an often practice. Bore exposure is quite important, as we can record the first time when the gilts are having their first cycle, and then we can keep track of their cycles, and we can inseminate at the right moment. The fourth, it's quite important that we are also flushing. I know flushing, it's a controversial subject at the moment, but we in Topics Northfin, we are running some trials trying to prove that this is still valuable, and for now our clients are still doing this as they see the advantage of flushing their gilts and also the sows. On the next 2 points, I would like to show you some data. When we talk about weight gain during gestation time, that's quite important. From the data that we have collected, we can see that weight gain during gestation time is quite important. When we develop our nutritional requirements and we present them in our manuals, we are focusing on maintenance for the sow, we are focusing on acquiring the the condition for future milk production, but also for developing the number of piglets in the next litter. So what we can see in this graph is that a better weight gain during gestation time, it helps the future production. On the next slide, we can see over here that lactation loss is quite important. I know from the past, and everybody's aware of a second parity dip when the sow is losing too much weight during the first lactation period. Then in the second parity, we can see a drop in piglet production. In this graph, we can see that more weight loss we have during lactation time, that leads to more piglets being lost in the next litter. So we can lose up from 1 up to 2 piglets from one parity to second. And from practice, what I can tell you is that we do not see this happening only with the second parity. If we look on longer term, we can see this happening even with the fourth parity. So during lactation time, it's quite important that we are doing a good job having the right diet, but also on feed management. So feeding only 2 times a day or maybe 3 times a day, it cannot be enough these days with the high prolific sows, with a lot of piglets and also good milking capability. We should feed the sow as many times as possible per day. Now, in conclusion, what I think we should focus on when we talk about reproduction performance and where we should focus on, first of all, we should look to the mother. So not directly to the gilts, we should look how is the mother doing during lactation time. So if the mother is losing a lot of weight, that will not be a mother from where I would select my future gilt. Second, it will be very important to select the gilts from a litter which is quite uniform, with a birth weight with a minimum of 1 kilo. Then the development of the gilt is quite important. So having at least 650 grams from the time of birth until the time of insemination is quite important. Then exposure to the boars, that's again important, which should be done around 150, 160 days during rearing time. Then we have to flush them, as I mentioned earlier. And afterwards, as I mentioned in my previous slides, we have to be sure that they gain some weight during gestation time. For example, for our TN70, we want to see at least 60 kilos together with the piglet, so it's much more compared with what we discussed earlier. And during lactation time, we have to be sure that we don't allow them to lose too much weight, as this will have an effect on the next litter. Thank you.
Thank you, Katalin. Great presentation, and I noticed this equipment almost as if a sow was being sent to an operation room or something, that it was scanned and it looked impressive. What exactly was being done there?
This is happening on our nucleus farm. So our test pigs are going through the CT scan, where we can see exactly how their joints are looking, for example, how is the bone. We can see exactly how meat is in the carcass and so on. So we collect a lot of data which is used in our breeding program, and afterwards it's coming into profit, let's say, to our clients.
Very advanced technology being used there. Well, I'm impressed with that. I would like to move on with very advanced technology. Thank you very much. With us is also Harjan Westerman. He's Sales Account Manager, Pig Solution at NADAP Livestock Management. And at NADAP, you are an expert in making very advanced technology for use, for instance, in the reproduction area. Harjan has a Bachelor in Agricultural Business Administration and a Management Master of Science at Nyenrode Business University here in the Netherlands. And you will address the issue of data in swine production. Floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Vincent. Yes, as Vincent mentioned before, my name is Harjan Westerman and I work for NADAP. NADAP is quite a large company in the Netherlands. We are active since 1929, and our main mission is to create technology for life. And we do it in various business units. But first I want to tell you something about our 11 offices worldwide and my 700 colleagues that I have. And we are stock exchange listed, as is mentioned on this slide. As I mentioned before, we have 7 business units. So we have business colleagues of mine are working in retail, parking solutions, even healthcare. And we're making hardware and software solutions for those business units. Myself, I am working for livestock management, and we are making solutions for the dairy farmers and for pig farmers worldwide. So what is the position of NADAP livestock management in the pig farming industry? Well, we started off building smart systems, feeding systems, systems which register activity of sows entering systems and collecting their feeding data. And then we developed software accompanying these systems to support performance for you, the pig farmer. But as soon as we found out if we add these data in our systems and we enable you, the farmer, to add data from feed companies, or for instance, my colleague topics here, breeding companies to it, then you can supply transparency into the entire pork supply chain. And that's something the consumer nowadays, at least in the Netherlands, is looking for a lot more. I hope the technique doesn't fail me today. Yeah, okay. So this is why we set up our sense propositions. And our sense propositions are here to develop smart, sustainable solutions for the entire pig production cycle. So we have 3 main propositions. For the breeding and nutrition company, we have our ProSense proposition. In the center, around the circle, you see the SowSense proposition, which consists of various products and of course management solutions. And on the right side of the slide, you see our PorkSense proposition, which mainly focuses on housing finisher pigs in large groups. But today we'll be focusing on our SowSense proposition, which enables you as farmer to manage your sows into the right body condition during gestation, because this is of course important. And how does that look like in practice? Well, on the screen you see a very nice slide of a sow farm in the Netherlands which uses our complete SowSense proposition, and you see that the way of housing these gestation sows is a lot difficult than what you are maybe used to. The sows are in free group housing. There is a relax zone on the screen here where sows go on about their daily business. They socialize, they sleep, and when they feel the need to eat, what is of course quite common in sows, they go into the feed station and they will get the right rationed portion of feed. When they exit the feed station, they will walk over the sow weigh monitoring bridge, of which you see a picture on the screen as well below, monitoring the peso. After that, they are separated based on criteria you, the farmer, give in, and they pass our heat detection system. But today I want to talk about our sow weight monitoring system. Now, what does it mean? Is monitoring the condition of the sow important? Well, we found out this graph. This graph mainly sets body classification against total born piglets, and you see if the sow is in the right body condition, then the amount of born piglets will be optimal. So we are looking for that. So how does that look in terms of money? We calculated this based on a Dutch example, so we set some money examples in this. They are based on euros and in a Dutch environment. So this is a graph of the average back fat distribution of the sows of an average Dutch sow farm. In the middle is the red line. We're going to put two lines in there, and these represent plus 3 millimeters of back fat and minus 3 millimeters in back fat. So what happens when a sow is minus 3 millimeters in back fat? You will lose 1.6 weaned piglet per sow per year, and these sows are 10% more likely to be replaced in the next year. So this results in a loss of €65 per sow per year. So these sows that are too light, they will cost you €65 more than they should. When the sows are too heavy, so we're now looking on the right side of the diagram, they will not only wean 1.8 piglet per sow less, and they will be again 10% likely to be replaced in the next year. They also consume more feed than necessary, so they will cost additional money. This will result in a loss of €85 per sow per year. So these sows that are too fat cost you €85 too much. Now, too thin costs money, and too fat costs money, as I mentioned. And this is an average distribution of the sows that are on average sow farm in the Netherlands. You see, most of the sows are in the optimal body condition in the middle, but even more so are not. They are either too fat or they are too light. Now, what are the alternatives to manage the sow body condition? First, you can do ultrasound back fat monitoring, or you can do every sow with a caliper. This is, of course, it costs a lot of labor, and you can only do it on certain times during gestation. So you have only momentary moments that you collect this data, and it's very labor intensive. Now, what is the solution? This is our NADAP weighing scale. Of course, it's implemented in the feeding system, so in the sow sense proposition. And every time a sow passes the electronic sow feeding, her body weight will be registered. So you have a lot of data. So as you see on the diagram, this is all the data points collected of one sow. In the days after insemination, you see a lot of data points are collected. But of course, since the sow is not locked up in our weighing scale, it walks over it, our algorithm calculates the actual body weight of the sow. So you see in here, a lot of body weights are collected, and the line is the actual body weight of the sow as calculated by our algorithm. This will give you a lot of data. With this data, you can interpret it and you can take action. How does that look like? Well, in front of you see actual body weights of sows in gestation. You see sows of different parities, and the black line represent the body weight development that the sow should be in. And you see that almost none of the sows are in the correct body weight. Of course, we can argue what is the optimal body weight gain during gestation for these sows, and this is something you have to discuss with either your feeding company or with, for example, the breeding company like Topics beside me. They have a very good idea of what the optimal body weight development for a sow should be during gestation, and together with them we can establish these black lines, and together with us we can help you to manage the sows to stay in between those lines. Our software system calculates these lines as we saw before, and they can even be controlled to give you an attention as a farmer when the sow goes either beneath or above these lines. So it's not in the optimal body condition. You see an example of our software on your screen, and you see that sow in parity 1 is 53, sow 53.29 in parity 1 did go a little bit under her optimal body weight for some time. And then the farmer got an attention. He or she probably adjusted the duration of this sow, and the sow got in perfect condition again. Then she got into the farrowing room, where of course we do not have the data because she is not in the gestation house. And she came back after farrowing. She came back into the sow weighing system management, and the data was collected once more. Now, only collecting this body weight is of course not the solution. You need to set your rations accordingly. So you see a couple of examples on the screen of breeding ration and gestation ration. Those are set up giving the body weight of the sow. Now let's sum it up. The benefits of body weight management in pig farming. First of all, as I mentioned before, longer lifetime. So that are in optimal body condition will live a lot longer and also have a lot less lower replacement rate. Culling sows will be less, and since your sows are in better body condition, they will also give more vital piglets during farrowing. So less mortality in piglets, healthier piglets, and this will all result to a higher performing sow in the end. Now, if you would like to get in touch, I would like to invite you to scan this QR code on the screen. It will directly redirect you to my LinkedIn page. We can connect you, we can chat, or if you want to contact me via email or via phone number, they are both on the screen as well. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Harjan. You always make me feel a little bit like I've just been in the film The Matrix with all these data just running by on the screen. What do you say to producers who are very interested but also scared about the enormous amount of data coming their way?
It's a very good question. Of course, we are very experienced in developing all kinds of hardware and software systems, but we never do anything without consulting you, the farmer, in the end, of course, because you work daily with these systems, these interfaces, and we always work together with them. So we always try to. It's an ongoing process, and we are ourselves developing a lot of interfaces, but of course we're also working together with partners like Leo and Agrovision to develop these systems into your management software as well. So we all work together into making it as user-friendly as possible for the farmer.
Yeah, and extracting the data that they are actually useful.
Rather
than being confronted with too many figures, indeed.
True. Yeah.
You've already made the bridge, that was where I wanted to go as well, to Leo, because we're going to dive a little bit deeper into precision agriculture here. Peter ter Linde is CEO of precision livestock farming company Leo in the Netherlands. This is all about ear tagging, RFID technology, and being able to track every important development in an animal's life. And that's what he will be discussing in his presentation, the registration of individual pigs from birth all the way up to the consumption. Peter, take it away.
Thank you very much for the good introduction. Thanks for paving out the way for me so I can actually go into more detail about data. That's very good. Thank you very much for that. My name is Peter. I'm CEO of a company called Leo. We are specialized in the individual registration of piglets. So after the sow has been managed well by, as the people before me told, what is the effect of the offspring and how do we follow that all the way through actual to the consumer? 4 pillars of that are a very important part of that. One is, of course, the traceability part. We see that traceability of actual individual animals is getting more and more traction for a number of reasons. One is the consumer wishes to know where actual meat is coming from, but also from a production perspective, it is very important to optimize and optimize your production with all that data that comes in. All that relates, of course, back to some way of managing your farm in a more modern and direct way. And also because you register so much data, very interesting to do a little bit more research on that data by yourself or together with, let's say, your genetic or your feed company there. So in the essence, individual traceability in that sense kind of looks like a digital animal passport. On the digital animal passport, you actually see exactly what's going on with that animal, where it's been, when it's been moved, and who's been in contact with that animal, and also what feed that it got, weights, medications, everything is traceable on that individual animal passport, and that again is being used then later on in the life of that animal, and also to the consumer. Why is that important? we think it's very important because of the primary fact is that we see an increase in the actual variation within pig production. We see 33% of the loss of pig production is because of the unmanaged variation in there. It's been a recent study by the University of Illinois that actually stated that pretty clearly. And it is getting actually bigger over time. The very important part also is that consumer behavior has been changing very rapidly, at least in Europe, but we see this also in other countries around the world, is that people want to know what they're consuming, and they want to have certain claims and truth to that claim, and data can actually prove that. Antibiotic-free, country of origin, non-GMO feed, whatever kind of concept claim you would need, precision and individual traceability makes that possible. A little bit more about the variation in pig production. We see a very big increase in the genetic potential of those animals. The genetic process being made by companies like Topics is amazing and very helpful for your production. It also needs you to help in how to manage that variation better. If you can see on the graphs on the left side, you see, let's say, live born per litter and the distribution in birth weights. You see you need to manage those variations also. And so that's a very important part. And even the Wageningen University did a study on that and said you actually need precision livestock farming to actually manage that in a proper fashion. What you're about to see right now is a video that kind of explains to you from the when does the animal start being registered in a system like ours, and how do you follow that all the way through. But that first line of registration, including what we think is the very most important birth weight, is an important part. So we're going to start that video now. Okay, as you can see in this video here, this is actually the point where the animals are being registered into a system and also connected to the mother sow. So you know who the mother is, you know who the father is, you know the parity they came from. And also within this specific process, we try to create a workflow process that lets you allow do more than that. So you scan the location where the animals are being born. And now here's where you get the electronic digital ear tag. So what she does is she passes it by the scanner that's on the side of the scale. She puts it actually in the ear and drops the piglet in the bucket, and the weight is being registered. So in this process, you know the animal, it's been registered in the system, you know the mother, you know the father, and you know the actual birth weight, which gives you a lot of information later on in life to follow that animal all the way through. So the digital passport actually originates here at this specific point. And you can see right now in the app, you get an overview of what it is, and in our dashboard, you actually see what variations and kind of dashboards, everything you want to know about from a management perspective. All right, so what you can see here right now is this is actually the screenshot from our app, and what we've done is we opened up the sow card and got all the information regarding the sow, the weight that the sow got when she actually got into the farrowing room. Interesting part is we get those weights actually from NEDAP directly into our system. And you can also see that the birth weights also related to that. Interesting part, if you can see the orange highlighted ones, is at cycle 3, the sow got a 293 body weight when she got in, which is lower than she actually should have had. And you can actually see the direct effect on the birth weight of that. So she had a way lower birth weight on average than you would normally expect. The question is, of course, what does that do later on in life? And the way we actually manage that is through the life cycle. In the end, the pigs are sent to slaughter. We actually want to know data from that slaughterhouse being sent into our system. So what you can see right now, at the slaughterhouse, they're actually scanning the ear tags through the manual or the panel scanners, and they can access the full individual animal history, as you can see on the left side what the guy in the screen is actually looking at. So you see a full history, everything that's happened to that animal, if it had antibiotics and all the labels it's been exposed to. So that helps you to actually make value of the carcass of that animal with the data, but also allows you to automatically send those results back to the farmer, where they actually get those slaughter results individually back, and you can see a lot of detailed information about the quality of that offspring actually went to slaughter. Interesting part, we just talked about what is the effect of birth weights on certain effects of the later on in life. So we made four graphs in this specific one right here, and we actually made two groups to compare one another. One is a group of birth weight less than 800 grams, and one is a birth weight higher than 800 grams. And in these graphs, you can actually see, if you specifically look at the bottom two ones, you can see the slaughter age in relation to the birth weight. You can see, in average, a lower birth weight animal stays longer at your farm, about 20 days longer. So normally it's very difficult to manage age in that way, but because we know the birth weight of the animal and we know the date it's been slaughtered, we can actually calculate exactly at what age they are being slaughtered. And with this data, you can actually show that the lower birth weight actually consume more feed and stay longer at your location, occupying space there. But also from the payout side, you can actually see on the right side the slaughter weight divided by birth weight. We can actually see there's a 10 to 15 kilo less slaughter weight of those animals when they actually make it to slaughter. So those are decisions made on how do we effectively manage our herd in that sense. So that was my story regarding what we can do on that effect, and hope you learned from.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Peter. Just a small question. I see you present quite nice graphs and screenshots and all, and they were all in English, but I suppose that if producers in Argentina are interested, I'm sure they can get them in Spanish as well.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. We have our system, I think, right now in over 15 languages.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of where you are. It automatically selects a language based on your browser settings, so you can go ahead. And the app, same thing. So everything is fully in Spanish available.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
I'm sure our viewers will appreciate that. I would like to close off the speaking now, and I would like to go for a bit of a roundtable discussion, and I will ask questions to any of you, also to Francisco. But if you feel that you have something to add, please break in. We're doing this together. I would like to start with you, Katalin. In your view, what would be the biggest problem in reproduction in Argentina or in Latin America? Let's make it that. What would be the main reproduction issue at the moment?
Oh, thank you for your question. So, especially if we make a parallel between Argentina and the Netherlands, the Netherlands, the disease pressure is much higher. So, Argentina already has a better, let's say, start off. Besides that, I think it's quite important what I mentioned earlier, to have a look on the whole production of a future sow, not only focusing on the gilt part or only on the sow part. So having a look to the whole chain of production, like birth weights, what also was mentioned earlier, I think is quite important. Birth weights, exposure to the boars, but also the growth rate. We have seen with our clients when they are not growing enough, so the growth rate less than 600 grams from the day of birth until insemination, then we see less showing hits. We see problems with reproduction, but also numbers in total born. And when they are growing too fast, then we see problems with longevity. So then it's a waste of money. So we have to try to use this system, which we were presented earlier, to try together to have, let's say, to take the middle road.
The middle road.
Yeah.
Francisco, well, you are in Latin America. Could you also shed your light? What do you see as main reproduction issues in Latin America?
Well, some kind of diseases in some countries, and I think we don't use a lot of data. Maybe people work like an autopilot and don't see which data they need to collect and to add to the current farm management. And I think that is the main problem. We need to use more data to improve the results.
Autopilot, interesting. Harian, have you? What would you say? What was the main reproductive issue in Latin America?
Well, I agree with Francisco, of course. If you're going on the automatic pilot, of course, there's always something that stays behind. So if you collect the data, interpret it, you can see exactly what's going on. And mainly you are focusing on only the 20% pigs that will deserve your focus. But what about the other 80%? Are there highlights or are there need to knows, or you should see the entire data pool You should first collect the data and then see the entire data pool and select what is what. And then you can focus and make better management decisions, is my opinion.
Making sure you get a good view on every animal in the Peter?
What we see, and that's in larger integration in general, is that there's a lot of people having specific functions within the task that they have to do. What it lacks is kind of an integrated approach. Data makes that possible. Data makes the effect, what this guy is doing right here and this girl is doing right there, what is the actual effect on that? And right now in current production, you don't see a lot of that. And I believe that with the technology that we combine, that is absolutely possible. It's a very big win for a country like Argentina.
You understand what the neighbors are doing and what the others in the farm are doing. Yeah. Interesting. And Francisco, whilst I'm talking to you as well, why must the focus be, in your view, on the service groups instead of periods in the breeding herd analysis?
Because day by day, the way of working in the farms has been changing. So normally we used to have weekly basis systems, but today we have farms with 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and even 5 weeks. So if we analyze the farm by period, like month or week or 3 month or quarterly, we lose the perspective of how it's happening with the service group. And when you have finished your matings, your service group is like a product in process. You will not have more farrows than the matings you did, always less than the number of matings. And you need to focus on what happened in that service group, and you need to track the information around the gestation, farrowing, weaning, and then the finishing barn. So that is the reason why you need to focus on the service group, because if you have a lot of gills in the service group, maybe your immunity quality of the pigs is lower than other service group, and you need to have in control of what happened in that.
Thank you very much for that one. I'm going to one of my speakers here at the table. Harjan, you showed a very nice picture, an impressive picture of a Dutch pig farm, a Dutch sow farm with a lot of animals kept on straw, and the gestating animals were kept free. I don't think, well, I have to ask you whether you would appreciate having group housing for sows during gestation, or whether you would like to have them in gestation crates. Could you explain why keeping animals in group housing is more beneficial for the total farm's results than keeping the sows in gestation crates?
It's a very good question. Thank you, Vincent. Of course, when you look at gestation crates, I worked on a sow farm for 12 years. I've worked with both. It's funny. We started at sow farm in gestation crates, and every day I had to check all the animals. They were all getting fed the same ration, and we collected no data from it. Only the data from me walking behind the animals. And then we started at a group housing system with an ESF system, and then all the animals were monitored, and only the animals that needed my attention, I got attention from by the software system. And I really found it very handy, because I don't need to focus on all the animals in gestation. Most of the animals go on about the daily business and be fine. But some animals require more attention, and those animals I can focus my attention on. So I can work as a farmer, you can work very more efficiently. You can work more efficiently with the loose housing system. You collect more data. You can actually focus on the animals that matter and control them very properly with the system.
Katalin, what would have your preference? If you had to build a farm today, would you choose for group housing, or would you go for gestation crates?
Of course, I would go for group housing. We should be aware that also there is quite some public pressure nowadays. We are looking more into having loose housing. And for example, right now, at the moment, we are building a new nucleus in Canada where we will have all the sows loose housing, but also loose lactation rooms. So over there, we are looking to select the animals for the future. And this is also, I think, what the public wants. They want to see the animals walk freely, not being caged, and everything should be more, let's say, natural. And I think this is also a trend that we see in all the markets. For example, also in Canada, we see a lot of big key accounts which are changing from animals which are in crates to more loose housing. So I think this is the way we should go also for the future.
Anticipating on future developments, perhaps. Peter, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely. And because of what the public wants is that that those type of questions come a lot towards us also. And by taking it into account right now and really acting on that, we can actually breed a newer animal that's actually sustainable in those type of environments. So. Collecting this precision data is like what we do to connect it to the breeding values that Topic creates. I think this is absolutely the way to move forward. Yeah.
Francisco, what do you advise? Would you go for a group housing or for gestation crates?
The future is for group housing, I think. In Latin America, we don't have the pressure that in Europe or US or Canada. But I think the future will be to do a more natural type of production. Of course, the needs of spaces and areas will be changed where the pig are produced, and maybe Argentina will have a big advantage because they have a very huge area to increase production, and maybe the Dutch industry will be in problems or troubles in the future. But I think the future is that.
Yeah, so if producers are, considering to do this, then take into account that maybe not now, but maybe in the future legislation may change. Peter, we just spoke a little bit about it. I understand you also have one of the LEO initiatives going on in Brazil. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. We Leo, at kind of our business model as we presented, is that we sell our solution through our dedicated partners, who has to be some kind of added value. And in this specific case, we worked together with a pharmaceutical company who has worked together with a big integration, wanted to validate the medication they give them on a continuous basis. So this is the way that we set that up over there, and the same type of setup we had with a large feed company. We did that in Spain. So. We have some Spanish experience there, but it's growing rapidly. But this is kind of the things that we do with a system like ours.
Definitely reaching out to Latin America.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Kathleen, question for you: can we make a sow stop losing condition or weight during lactation?
I think that's quite difficult, taking into account that nowadays the sows are producing quite a high number of piglets, and also the milking capability of our genetics is quite high. So then it's quite difficult to make her lose 0 kilos of own body weight during lactation time. Then what I would say, it's quite important to focus on preparing the future lactation period. So inseminating the young gilt at the right weight, then growing that weight gain during gestation time. From the time of insemination until farrowing, they have to grow some kilos, so prepare for lactation period, and then you have more chances of having a better lactation period with less losses, and you are preventing from future losses in production. So preparing, not only focusing on the problem at the moment, because only through diet and feed management, I think you can solve a lot, but you cannot solve it totally.
Yeah, again, keeping the bigger picture in account. Okay, Harjan, question for you: how accurate is the NADAP sow weighing system?
It's a very good question. We get asked it often. As I already shown in my presentation, our system gives a week weight. So the sow is weighed every time she visits the feed station during the group housing system, during the station, sorry. And we collect all these data. Actually, our weighing scales collect the most data and any weighing scales known to date. So they collect, I think, about 10 data points of weights every second. And all this data is put in the system, and this algorithm collects all these data, because the sow is of course not locked up in the weighing scale, but walks over it. And then once a week, the system will calculate a week weight, and this is 100% accurate.
Okay, so in case there is some off weighing, it will be
corrected. Will be corrected.
I see. One last question for Kathleen here. Well, I've been doing some calculating. Argentina is considerably larger than the Netherlands, almost 4,000 kilometers north to south. So how do you guarantee that the sows and the gilts actually manage in every kind of climate, in every kind of latitude, in every kind of altitude as well? How do you manage that? Can you assure that it works?
Our clients, I think they are the proof that our genetics, for example, is working all over the world. Because we have clients from, for example, from Iceland up to South Africa. So that's already quite a big difference in temperatures or also way of working, also type of raw materials present in the market. So I think nowadays through our genetic selection program, what we have done, we have selected a sow which is matching more or less all the climates and all the different management systems.
Excellent, excellent. I think that will that will reassure our viewers. I would like to wrap up this webinar briefly by just asking all of my panel members here to summarize in one sentence the key message you want the readers, the viewers, to remember of your presentation. And I'd like to start with you, Francisco.
Okay. I think the main message I want to give to the producers is focus on the service group and the yield replacement, because in that part is managing in a good way your service group and your yield replacement, you will guarantee the better results for the whole herd. I think that is the main message. Focus on service group and yield replacement. Peter, I'm just going backwards from here. Yep.
No worries. For me, it's actually what I would use data to create awareness of what's going on right now. Don't immediately start by optimizing everything you want to do, but first see what is my status quo right now. And that's the basic, that's the starting point for your actual future improvements, but know what's going on right now.
Okay, Harjan?
Yeah, when you have to establish the status quo by Leo, with our body management proposition, you can actually manage the sow into the optimal body condition, and this will, for your farm, will enable you at least to maximize sow performance.
Okay, again, the status quo. Katalin, famous wise last words.
Oh, I would say that, like I mentioned already earlier, we do not have to focus only at the moment, what's happening at the time of insemination or what's happening in lactation. We have to see always the big picture. So especially if we talk about reproduction and something that it's overlooked most of the time, we have to look to what's happening to the mother of the future guild.
Mother of the future guild. I have the impression, if I listen to all of your answers, that in fact, it comes down to taking a step back, asking yourself, what do we want? And then see the whole picture, and on the basis of that make decisions, and not make decisions ad hoc, so to say, but make it in the bigger picture. I think, and that basically was also the conclusion of the previous webinar. Right, with that, I would like to wrap this webinar up, and I would like to let you know that in case you would like to review this webinar, or if you would like to recommend it to somebody else, you can always find it at www.gitaporcino.com. And I'm happy to announce that about mid-March 2022, that's when the third edition of this series webinar series will be published. So keep an eye on that. I'd like to thank everybody here in the table. Thank you for being here. I thank Francisco for being with us. I thank you, viewers, for being with us for an hour, and hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.